Hello, welcome back to my car cave. So I've got a new Techno model. This time it's another Ferrari. This is the 1984 Ferrari 126 C4M2. So this is the third variation of the Ferraris they ran in 1984. This is a Michele Alboreto, second place European GP, limited to 90 pieces. So let's go ahead and open it, and we'll talk about the car. Okay, now that we got it out of the box, let's go ahead and talk about this model. So this is a Tecnomodel. It's a company I own several models from. I don't know that I've ever done a video review of them. And I got to be honest, it's not a brand that I particularly care for. And I'll tell you why, because it's expensive and the detail is not there for the price relative to something like GP Replicas or even Spark. Um, that's so I kind of feel as a collector handcuffed when I have to buy one of these models. And again, no one is making me buy these, but as someone who's trying to collect every variation of a Ferrari F1, I'm kind of, they're the only ones in town who make certain variations of this car. So this is the 84 126 C4M2. Therefore, you can understand by the two, there's other variants. So I have a GP Replica 126 C4 and a 126 C4M. And then this was the last variation they ran in that season. So anyways, because I feel the need to have all three variations, this is the only one in town, and so I'm forced to buy it. And that's been the case for a while. Tecnomodel was probably the first company to really produce back catalogs of old F1, particularly Ferrari. Lotus and a couple other marquees. They also do some sports cars in resin as well. I might have a couple of those in my Le Mans collection. I can't recall offhand, and those have been fine. I think their sports cars are much better than their F1, and they just lack detail. What I mean is, here, no carbon fiber decaling anywhere, whereas obviously on GP Replicas, this would all be carbon fiber. Spark, Mini Champs, that all be carbon fiber as it should have been. Second, no photo etch parts. There's no rivets anywhere to be seen in here. Is not an impression in the mold, much less any kind of photo etch parts trying to mimic a rivet, whereas obviously those are all over the GP replicas. In addition to that, um, the radiator here, no real photo etch part in there. There is a texture, a grilled texture, which is probably just an imprint. The knock-a-duct there that's not cut out or even painted black. These knock-a-ducts here, just painted black. This area here, that, radiator outlet there, that's again just painted black. Whereas, it would be a photo etch part with other brands. Then, if I look at the thickness of this rear wing end plates, I mean, that's just super thick. I don't think that's very realistic. Then what else we got here? The steering wheel is gigantic relative to the cockpit. There's not a lot of detail in there. The engine is terrible. It's just a pressed or stamped engine. Okay, they painted a little bit of coloration there on the exhaust tips, but that's about it. It really lacks the detail for this price point. And it's just super disappointing, particularly when you put it up next to GP replicas. And I'll do a different video to highlight the differences between these two brands at another point. So, anyways, there's not a lot of good stuff other than the actual, the shape of the car looks right. I do think the wheels actually look pretty good. They may even be more accurate looking than the GP replicas, to be honest. So I think that's a good point. And then the driver helmet. I think the driver helmet is probably the best feature of this car. You notice in there that they are, that you have the driver figure, which, I'm not always crazy about, but they do paint the black foam trim around the, say the nose and the cheekbone, whereas I feel like on Spark and even GP Replica, it's kind of, sometimes it's the flesh tone color, so it just doesn't look right. This actually looks pretty darn good, and I'm kind of happy with that. So anyways, why is Tecnomodel a thing? Why is it more expensive? And I think really what it comes down to is this. This is a limited edition of just 90 pieces. This particular one says it's number 2 of 90, which of course plays into my collector psyche that I think, oh my goodness, I have the second one off the line. When actually that decal is probably just put on these randomly after they're made, so I have no real knowledge that this was the second one they made, and if they did, who really cares? Number one's probably the best one, or even number 27 would be more entertaining. So, anyways, but that plays into my collector psyche that, oh, I have something that's rare. They only made 90 of these versions. They made 80 of the Rennie or new versions. So they are limited. So they do so that's why they don't go on sale. They tend to sell out. So if you don't get them when they first come out, you kind of miss them. And so that's kind of their whole thing, is that they don't make as many, and maybe that's why it costs more, because they're spending a certain amount of money on the tool and deferring that cost or defraying that cost over a limited run. So that said, again, I reluctantly buy these when there's not an alternative from GP Replicas. I've also been irritated when GP Replicas makes the exact same model a year or two later, and then I have to sell the Tecnomodel version, which is often difficult to do. Anyways, but that's it. So that's Tecnomodel. I'm not telling you don't buy these, or obviously I did. They're just, don't buy them and expect the GP replica quality that you would get from them. So anyways, for anybody interested, the base, this is another annoyance. You can see where the screws are here. I have to cut them to get it off the base. That's kind of, I don't know why they do that. I wish they would just put a sticker there or something, so when I do sell this later, it doesn't look tampered with. But anyway, so that's the 1984 third variant of their cars that they raced that year, the 126 C4M2. Again, overall, I think it's a very nice model. Certainly at this distance, at just viewing distance, it looks great. But it does not hold a candle to the GP replicas, which are cheaper. And I'll do a separate video on that later. So if you like the video, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll have some more stuff coming soon.